Rain poured out of the sky over North Cascades National Park that miserable night in June of 2003. My buddy, I'll call him Tom, and I were park rangers. There were flash flood advisories. Some mountain roads had collapsed. Trees blocked the road in miserable conditions. Tom and I got out to check on a campsite near Azure Lake. It was around 2 a.m. We had a big problem. A group of 20 campers and 5 cars had tried to stay overnight, but flooding broke up the party. Problem is, when they all met up back together, only 4 of the cars showed up. So Tom and I drove around for most of an hour trying to find it, and we didn't see a thing. We were heading up to a bridge which crossed a typically dry creek bed, which tonight had become all full of rain and made a raging torrent. Lightning struck nearby, and just for a second the gloomy night disappeared. I was enveloped by this blue piercing strobe. I happened to be looking down towards the creek when I saw something. "Tom, stop the truck." We were within a few feet of the bridge. Tom asked, "Yeah, what's going on?" "I saw something in the water. It looked like a man stuck underneath a fallen tree. I'm going to climb down and check it out." Tom replied, "All right. There's an old logging road a few hundred yards back. I'll join you as soon as I can." I grabbed my first aid kit, and Tom hightailed it back to the logging road. The thick rain made it hard to see. It was a dangerous climb, but I made it down the embankment, my flashlight bobbing and my tired legs trudging through the mud. It was a struggle to find the trapped victim, but I caught sight of him. I ran over, identified myself, and examined the situation. The victim was trapped by a heavy tree across his torso. I tried pushing, but the tree wouldn't budge. I asked, "Sir, can you tell me your name?" And powerful white light illuminated his face. For a second I wondered why he was wearing a monkey mask, but it quickly dawned on me. I was no mask. But there wasn't time to be afraid. The water was inching up towards him, just splashing at the top of his cone-shaped head. Just then, Tom pulled up in his truck. I yelled to him, "So the chain went around the tree. We need it to pull it off of him. And when you come down, bring a chainsaw." Tom flashed his lights twice, indicating he had heard me. I stepped over some branches and put my arms around the young ape man to keep his head above the water. He instinctively grabbed my forearms, as if he knew that I was trying to save his life. He was struggling to get free. He was making words, but it didn't sound like any language I knew of. Tom came tearing down the hill. "I got the chainsaw and the rig up to..." Tom dropped his flashlight and chainsaw. He was frozen in fear. Tom, do your job. Pick him up. We're running out of time. Come on, snap out of it." Tom was frightened to death, but he was still a professional. He picked up the chainsaw and flashlight. I told him, "Get off some of those branches. I'll ease some of the pressure on his chest." Tom nodded and fired up the chainsaw. In short order, the branches were gone. I was able to lift up the creature just enough for it to breathe normally. After a few deep breaths, it let out a piercing cry that echoed down the valley. My ears ached, but I maintained my focus. Tom came back with a chain. He wrapped around the tree and ran back to the truck. I reassured the ape man, "Hold on. We're going to get through this." The look in his black eyes said that he understood and appreciated me trying to help. Tom made it almost back to the truck. I heard a metallic crunch. A rocket hit the side of the truck. Tom dove underneath the truck and waited. A moment later, I ducked. A rock flew inches above my head and splashed in the river. As I was getting back up, one of the rocks hit me on the shoulder. It stung a little bit, but I went back to work. I heard some crazy sounds from the woods. There were growls. Sounded like someone was beating their chest. A couple of trees fell. More rocks hit near me. I could hear Tom crying for his life. Another rock hit my left thigh. Now that tears it. In a second of courage or sheer madness, I moved a log over to my patient to prop him up a little bit more. I stood up and yelled at the creatures in the woods. "Without my help, he will drown. Do not interfere." Heard one of the creatures bark a reply, and then the rock stopped. Tom, it won't bother us anymore. Climb into the truck and do your job. He was motionless. Now, Tom, now. Crawled up from beneath and got in the driver's seat. Tom gave 2 flashes of the lights. I stood back. As soon as he engaged the winch, the truck shook. The tree moved a little bit, but not enough to roll off the creature. I hollered to the woods, "I'm going to need some help here." From out of the murky night came 5 massive ape-like figures. The biggest one, who I would assume is the leader of the group, was well over 8 feet tall. They each took their stations around the fallen tree. "Try it again, Tom." As the winch engaged again, the creatures all pulled at the tree. "Keep pushing. Come on, guys. Let's do this. Come on." The tree began rocking back and forth and back and forth. Got it. The tree rolled away. The trapped creature was elated. He looked at me and gave me what seemed to be a smile. The big one bent down and picked him up and cradled him in his arms. The other 4 scrambled off into the thick forest. The big one started to walk away, but then he paused. He turned back and walked towards me. The young one reached out his hand and stroked my face. I whispered to him, "You're welcome. Good luck." And he disappeared into the night. I climbed back into the truck. Tom just stared ahead, white as a ghost. A communication came over the radio from headquarters. "We found the missing car. They'd gotten lost. They're all fine and back with the camping group." I grabbed the mic. 10-4, back to base. I put a reassuring hand on Tom's right shoulder. "It's okay, buddy. Let's go back home." But Tom seemed a million miles from nowhere. He shook his head. "They aren't real." I replied solemnly, "Tom, they are real." He slammed his hands on the steering wheel. "They are not real." I kept my head down and remained silent. Tom wiped away a few tears. "Here's what our report is going to say. We drove around looking for the missing car. We didn't find anything." "Well, what about the dent?" "A tree came down and smacked the side." "Understood, Tom. Understood." We drove back to the base, filled out our report, and said nothing about the creatures. The next day when I went to work, I found that Tom had quit. I stayed on as a park ranger. I never saw one of those things again. 20 years passed. A few weeks ago, I saw Tom in a restaurant in Spokane. I waved, "Hey, buddy." He gave me a brief glance of recognition, but then turned around and walked out. I never told anyone what happened that night. My wife always knew something was wrong, but she never asked. Years later, I'm retired. I'm living nearby in a cabin overlooking the mountains. Most every morning, I will sit out on the front porch with a cup of coffee and just gaze out into the woods. I know those creatures are still out there, but I also know I'll never see another one. I'm not the kind of guy who gets into cryptozoology nonsense. I don't watch Bigfoot videos or TV shows, and the topic never came up among me and my friends or family. But I'm making this recording just because I'm trying to help others by telling about my experience. Maybe you'll be encouraged. You're not crazy. You're not alone. But rest assured, they are real. They are real.